This is Wildsnake, released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, courtesy of Spectrum Holobyte and Bulletproof Software. We already looked at this game ages ago, but did you know there was a Game Boy version of Wildsnake? If you didn't know, now you do, and if you did know, well, you still know, so what's the point, really? Wildsnake is a puzzle game of sorts where you have snakes falling from the sky, and the goal is to clear snakes away by having the same type of snake consume others of its kind. Each of the falling snakes can be controlled with a directional pad, slithering along the path you guided until its path is blocked, at which point the snake stops moving and remains firmly erect, thus becoming an obstacle for the next snake to come along, and basically things start to pile up until you start killing snakes. A well-placed kill means a cascade of snakes falling to the bottom, occupying whatever empty space they could, and changing the dynamics of the playfield. Every new game starts off with only a couple snake types to manage, but introduces a new species every once in a while to make things more complicated. Not only that, but the game speed ramps up every once in a while as you progress further, making things a bit more challenging. Fortunately, you do have a couple helping hands, such as this flashing wild snake that drops down and kills the snakes of the type it touches, and then there's this big snake that you can't control. It just drops down to the ground and kills whatever it touches, which is always fun to watch, but it is helpful for better or worse. You have 3 difficulty settings in Wildsnake, which determines the speed of the snakes. In addition to that, you also have the option to play in one of 7 different playfields that drastically change the dynamic of the game. So if the straightforward well seems a bit on the easy side for you, you can try one of these other varieties that will put your skills to the test. And then there's King Cobra, a special mode where you're presented with a variety of challenges to complete within a specified amount of time, although this version is lacking the little animations that pop up after each challenge. Wildsnake on Game Boy can also be played with 2 players via Game Link. The concept of Wildsnake isn't all that complex, and the mechanics of the game actually works well enough that it seems almost natural. It's enough of a twist on the falling block style of puzzle game to be different from the norm, but not quite enough to be a completely foreign concept. Plays well, controls fine with a D-pad moving the stake around, and has an addictive quality to it that's synonymous with any good puzzler. Wildsnake has a fairly simplistic but otherwise straightforward visual style. Because of the Game Boy's limited color palette, it'll take a while for you to distinguish from the different number of snakes because you need to take into account minor skin details, shading, and other minutiae, because at first glance, they'll all appear to look the same. Fortunately, it's not a total game breaker, and once you're able to distinguish all the different snakes, it's business as usual. For the most part, the game looks fine for what it is. It's a relatively clean looking game, nothing to write home about. There is Super Game Boy compatibility here, but all it really does is offer a couple of backdrops that shift between modes, and that's about it really. Much like its SNES counterpart, Wildsnake falters in the sound department with minimal sound effects and otherwise forgettable music. Not much else to say in that regard. Overall, Wildsnake is a novel take on the falling block puzzle game format that's actually quite addictive once you wrap your head around it, no pun intended. It has a few options for variety, it's somewhat unique in its snake mechanics, plays well enough, and it's quite a bit of fun whether it be on the Game Boy or the Super Nintendo, or even the Game Gear version. Apparently there's one that I just found out about. All in all, if you like these sort of puzzle games and you want to try something different, give Wildsnake a shot or two. It's just dandy.